What's up, everyone? My name is Alan, founder and consultant at For Now Marketing, and welcome to Braze for Technical Marketers. Today, we're going to go over how to insert the lifetime custom event count inside your messages using a Braze to Braze connected content call. Let's get started. All right, so let's imagine that For Now Marketing is now a gaming company, and we are sending an email where we're congratulating users for leveling up X number of times. We are collecting a custom event called Level Up. And for custom events in Braze, they do keep track of the lifetime count or frequency of how many times the user performed this custom event. And we want to insert this number into our emails just to celebrate them. And there are many other use cases for different verticals. For example, for a fitness company, it could be how many workout sessions you've done, or for a meditation company, how many meditation sessions you've completed. So that total custom event trigger count is what we are going to insert inside our emails. So going back to our email, we have just the structure set up for it, and then we are simply going to make this number dynamic using the connected content to grab the custom event count. And of course, in our internal webhook template, we do have a webhook template created for this already. But we are happy to go over each part in this video and just explain to us what exactly is happening. And even though it's a webhook template, I simply just use it as a library of solutions. We actually won't be using a webhook, and our solution is going to be written directly inside our email. So this is the solution that we're going to be using. And what's happening here is we're starting out by creating a variable called postbody. And this is going to be the body of our webhook or API call we're going to be making inside our connected content call. It's just easier when you have multi-line codes like this to be using the capture statements. You can capture everything in between this capture and then the end capture. So the post body is pretty much just this. And actually, before we get further, let's take a look at the API endpoint that we're going to be using, which is going to be the user export IDS. So this is the export user profile by identifier endpoint. It's the Braze endpoint where you can retrieve pretty much all the user profile information. Not all, a lot of user profile information based on external IDs, user aliases, device ID, Braze ID, email, even phone. So there's a lot of ways to query for the user. And then fields to export. That's where we can find a lot of the information that we might be interested in. So we can grab what apps they're a part of, every single custom attribute that's under this user, when they were created, their country, and then custom events. So lots of useful information on this user profile. Definitely take a look at this endpoint, this documentation, and read through what's available. But we're going to be looking through the custom events today. And then going back up to our request parameters, we are going to search by external IDs today. And in external IDs, IDS, is going to be an array of strings. So keeping in mind that the identifier that we're searching by is external IDS, which is an array of strings. And going back to our post body, that's why you see external IDS and then a bracket for arrays. And then we can include multiple strings. In this case, we just have the placeholder. So I'm gonna actually change that to our or a dynamic user ID. So insert that right here. And then under fields to export, all we want is custom events. I believe you were previously able to leave it blank and Braze would just give you everything, but Braze wants to conserve on the amount of data it's pumping out every day. So there's a note here that the request parameter is required as of this state, which we actually onboarded before this, but we will go ahead and still include fields to export because that's best practice, just to be a little bit more conservative when working with a lot of data here. So this is our post body, and then the connected content call is being made to my root domain, which I'm in the EU02 dashboard, and then the API endpoint, which is the user export IDS endpoint specifically. Once again, you can find that at the top of every API documentation page. That's right here. And then because this connected content call just has a lot of parts, we've simply just made a new line after each field just to make it visually more easy to read. But if all of these were put side by side, it would work just the same. So we have for this connected content call, since it is an API call being made to the Braze servers, we do need to have the headers field. And this headers field actually belongs in every single API endpoint. So you can actually find the request body here. It's the headers is this part right here. So content type application JSON, authorization, bearer, API key, which we have exactly that here, except I need to go build an API key. So I want to do that with us on this video. So if you scroll down to settings, and let me move us a little bit, settings, APIs and identifiers, I'm going to open this in a new tab. And normally I blur all my API keys inside the video, but just for today's example, I will make a new one for us, and then I'm going to delete it afterwards. So that should be okay. User export IDS example. IDs example. Then the specific endpoint we need is users export IDS. Oftentimes, what I'll do is if I know I'm going to be getting that endpoint, sometimes I'll just check off the entire category because a lot of times, I may end up needing users track or users delete. But specifically, the only one we need for today is this one. So I'm going to go ahead and create API key. That API key is what I need to insert inside my code here after bearer. So that should be good now. This is a post API call, and the body is the post body that we created up here. So this is going to be what we use. And then, of course, we save our response into a variable called response. So if we go back to the API documentation, take a look at an example response by scrolling down here. So the response is this. There's three main fields: message, users, and invalid user IDs. And under users is where we see everything. So scroll down a little bit, and this whole thing is actually the user export object. So under users, which actually is an array of objects. So keep that in mind. Users is an array. Under users, we have um, custom events. And then pretty much every single custom event is going to be listed here inside an array as well. So we're going to have to actually loop through custom events, look for the exact one that we want, which is called level underscore up, and then grab the count for that. So going back to our connected content call here, if I just grab response. Let's just first see what happens. So I'm just going to grab response. I'm going to cut this so that it's still pasted in our clipboard, but I still want to just show us what it looks like. Let's go ahead and test. And then if I search for my specific user, Alan at fornowmarketing.com, there it is. All the custom events that live under this user, some date stamps related, and then the count. So you can actually see already from here the count that we want. If we look for level up, we performed this 6 times. And that's pretty much what we want. So if you remember, we said users, it's all the data lives under users, but users is actually an array. So to go one level deeper, we are going to want to grab response dot users bracket 0, since it's the first item under users and it's actually the only item under users because we search by external ID. And that can be confusing because if you search by external ID, which is unique, there should only be one user under the users array. So we might think, well, why even bother grabbing the first one if there's only one? And a lot of times I get confused and I miss the array part of that. But that's why it's always important to read through our documentation and realize users is an array of object. So it will use array syntax, the bracket syntax. So it's a little hard to tell, but we did go one level deeper. We actually saw the word users earlier in front, and now we're not seeing that anymore. Okay, so this is actually as far as we're going to, actually, we can go one level deeper and go into custom events. So we're going to go one level deeper and then go into users.0.custom_events. Let's take a look one more time what happens there. Okay, so then we did go one level deeper. You no longer see the name custom event. And actually, custom events is an array, so you can see all the array items just got pasted side by side without the comma separating them. Awesome. So let's go ahead and paste in the code that we saw earlier, which was this. So what we're doing is we can actually delete this portion now. We don't want to actually see the full event. So what we're doing is we are going through every event in the custom event array. And then what we're going to do is check if event.name is equal to quotes level underscore up. So we're going to go through every single custom event in our custom events export. And if the event name happens to be level up, then what I want to do is assign our level up count equal to event, not dot name, but event dot count. So I want to grab the count of that specific event if the name of that specific event is equal to level up. I'm going to go ahead and end my if statement and then end the for loop there. And then let's just do a quick test. So I should be able to see level up count once my for loop finishes going through. Hopefully I see 6 when I click test. And I need to search for my user. And there it is, 6. That's perfect. So once again, what's happening here is we are looping through every custom event under my user profile. If the event's name is equal to level up, then I'm going to just grab the event's count, set it equal to a variable called level up count. And we're going to use that level up count inside the email. So let's go ahead and save this template. Once again, this is not where we're going to use it. This is just a library of our webhook code. But I'm going to copy and paste, go inside my email. And what I like to do is I just like to put like an empty row or a row dedicated just for the liquid code. And the biggest thing to watch out for here is when you're using connected content, you cannot use a normal drag and drop paragraph block. You have to use an HTML block, just something with how Liquid is rendered in the background. So Liquid has to be run, sorry, connected content has to be run using the HTML block. A lot of Liquid will actually work just fine inside a drag and drop block, but connected content specifically needs to live inside the HTML block. We don't actually need the level up. So I'm going to take the level up count. So I've copy and pasted the whole code. The code should do its thing, grab the data, and then level up count is simply going to replace that X right here. And then I also like to make this padding 0, just so that when we run the email, that this thing collapses entirely. All right, so time for the final reveal. Let's go ahead and preview and test. First of all, we should see no empty spacing here, so that's good to see. All our liquid code has been kind of crunched down, which is great. And then if we look for our user one last time, congratulations, you've leveled up 6 times. And we're actually not limited to just inserting or rendering the count. We can actually do a bunch of different things. So, for example, we can write a conditional that only shows up if level up count is greater than 5. So maybe we do if level up count is greater than 5, then we can say something like you've level up count times. However, maybe we want to switch it up and say if it's less than 5, then we show a different message. So we can use that to write conditional in a board and then also show different messages based on that level up count. So actually, the way I have it right now, because our level up count is greater than 5 at 6, this should actually not show up if I go ahead and preview it. Let's just test that one final time. So there we go. But maybe we have a different message. Or maybe we make it show up only if it's greater than 5, which in our case it should. And there it is. That's it for today. Thanks for watching and see you next time.